Well, welcome everyone to the Art of Paying Attention, where paying attention is our proper and endless work. Mary Oliver, the poet, once said that, and I like it because we are called to pay attention. Pay attention to our own souls, pay attention to our world, pay attention to our neighbors, our family, the people in our orbit. And so I'm so glad that you're here. I know there's a lot to consider these days. If you're living in America, is the country burning down? We don't know. It's not great out there. Hope you're paying attention. Hope you're being kind to those around you. Hopefully you're being kind to yourself. Hopefully you're showing grace to those around you in difficult days. And today we are going to share with you a fantastic interview I did with Julian Bermudez. And Julian is a therapist, and he is using some unique approaches to helping people heal from trauma, heal from pain, heal from their past. And he has a fantastic story of his own journey of healing, growing up in a difficult situation and finding other ways in which he could find freedom and find joy and find healing. And now he's in the practice of healing people using some interesting practices, which you will see and hear in just a moment. So I'm so glad to do this because I think of Julian and I think of there's a lot of healers out in the world. There's a lot of people that are trying to, I love what Henry Nouwen, he was a theologian and pastor and priest many years ago, said that we're all wounded healers. In other words, we all carry wounds. We all carry pain and we all carry baggage. We all carry hurts, but we're also called to heal other people, to be a presence to other people, to encourage other people, to pray, to heal. And some are more intentional. Some are more obvious, counselors, priests, pastors, therapists that are helping people heal from past wounds and hurts. But others, just the ordinary, everyday people, being in the lives of people, lifting them up, listening to their stories, right? There's great healing that comes from that. I know my work in coaching and counseling in the past, a lot of times the healing just comes from listening to someone, from hearing their story or having them share something that they've never shared before. And there's a lot of healing that comes through that. And so I just think of Julian, I think of the days in which we're in, and we do need healing. We need people who are willing to stand with other people and listen to other people, consider their stories, consider their opinions, consider their lives. Because I feel like in the days of, I'm going to sound like an old man on the porch, but in the days of social media, we talk over people. We don't hear people. We don't sit with people, right? We just have opinions and we share those opinions. And they're not always bad, but also just what does it look like to be with people that are actually hurting, struggling, to consider what people are carrying around. And so I'm so thankful for this podcast because the Art of Paying Attention is me inviting people on who are paying attention to all kinds of things in culture and in life and with their own souls and how they're helping find ways to help people heal and to find transformation in different ways and to point us to the goodness of life and to point us to new ways of thinking about things. And they may be unorthodox or they may be not in a nice, neat category, but that's what I love about this show is that people are thinking outside the box of saying, hey, there's a system that we live in and maybe this system isn't working, or there's a way of doing work that we've been handed, but maybe there's a different way of doing work, or there's a way we've been handed of how we should think about our families and relationships and marriage and all that, but maybe there's a different way to consider what it looks like to be fully present, to be loving, all those kinds of things. And so I hope you enjoy my conversation with Julian today. And before we jump into that, just a couple things. One is, hey, if you are looking to get started on your next creative project, or maybe you have a work project, I have a lot of experience in coaching and leadership, starting nonprofits, starting businesses, things like that, or creative projects. If you have something that you're just kind of thinking about, trying to get it off the ground, just need someone to listen, help you, maybe point you in the right direction, maybe give you some ideas, some feedback. Love to help you on my page, on my website. You can go to the coaching page. I'll put that in the show notes. And also, if you are feeling disconnected from yourself, you're disconnected from God, maybe spiritually lost, spiritually dry, spiritually out of touch, I offer some coaching and counseling around that too. And I've helped a lot of people do that. So I offer that every week and just make it out there. It's no pressure here, no pressure sales, but it's on my website. I'll put it again in the show notes. And hopefully that helps you. I'm here to, again, as we talked about, healing and listening and being with people. I know people don't know where to go sometimes they don't know who to talk to, but sometimes it's people that you're not as close to because you can be honest, you can be vulnerable. Sometimes the people we love the most, it's hard to be honest. So there you go. And just want to let you know, hey, if you I shouldn't say let you know, but if you are able to leave a rating or review wherever you listen to this podcast. And also, we're on YouTube. We're on video now. You can check out our YouTube channel. Please do that. That helps get the show out into the world. And so if you can do that, that'd be wonderful. Even if you don't like the show, leave an honest review. Well, without further ado, here's my conversation with Julian. Well, Julian, so good to have you on the Art of Paying Attention today, and wanted to ask you the question of all questions. What are you paying attention to today?
Yeah, I'm paying attention to if I'm judging myself or not right now. That's on the front of my awareness right now. So I'm paying very close attention to the harshness or the criticism, the evaluation, and of course that judgment.
I love it. So let's get into that a little bit because that's a little bit of, some of the work that you do and how you help people with therapy and using, unique methods to kind of get after people's pain and struggle. So let's talk a little about you. So I did hear, I think on maybe one interview, talking a little about your childhood, some of the challenges there, and kind of how you got into helping people with trauma, with therapy. Yeah, tell us a little bit about kind of your origin story.
Yeah, let me know how deep you want to go in this too. I'll
Yeah,
be
go
happy to
as
tell you
deep as you
anything you
want.
want.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk all day about just this area right here, but I don't think that that's the important stuff. Yeah, I mean, I had a really traumatic childhood. On one, I had two families basically. Both of my parents were teenagers. Neither of them wanted me. Socioeconomic status, disruptions or discrepancies between the two families, and then of course racial as well. My mom grew up. We lived in a trailer park next to a landfill. My dad lived in Southwest Detroit, and they just bounced me around. They didn't like me. They didn't want me. And so this created just a tremendous amount of pain. Just the just not being wanted was a big part of it itself, because then I internalized these beliefs of unworthiness. I'm not good enough. I'm not deserving, so on. But also, when you don't have anybody looking out for you, protecting you, or when the people who are supposed to do that are actually causing pain and abuse, it opens the door for all sorts of other abuse. So. Yeah, my childhood was fairly traumatic and left me with just tremendous pain. And at some point in my life, I just said, "That's enough. No more. I'm not going to keep doing this. I'm not going to continue living this pattern." I had had these series of moments where I had really started to understand just how I was stuck in a cycle and a pattern, and I could see, these men that were in my life just coming through myself. I was becoming them, and I was seeing the woman who was in my life, just my mom coming through her, and I was like, wow, I really want something different, and I just really wanted to figure out how to do that. And so, of course, when you wake up and you say, I'm going to choose something different, it's very difficult to choose something that you can't even identify. You don't even know what it looks like. It's like being blind to a color and then trying to find that color. It was so hard to find new patterns outside of what I had known. And so, yeah, I got started on this path, and over the course of years and years and, over decades now, just really trying to come more into myself and cultivate more agency, awareness, choice, and to take responsibility for the situations that are in my life to ultimately, liberate myself from those old patterns and to choose new things. So, I mean, that's the gist of what happened and how I got here. And it's a continuous practice. As I said, those old patterns, they get so deeply entrenched. And sometimes I'm in one of them and not even aware of it, being harsh to myself and criticizing or judging myself and not even noticing it just because that's just how things are. So yeah, it's an active practice. I'm still working on it today.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit, like, you obviously came awake or aware of like this wasn't healthy, this is not how I want to live my life. What did kind of first steps look like for you? I mean, was it, hey, I need a mentor, hey, I need therapy, hey, I need a counselor? What did like the first steps of like healing for you to kind of even come to realize kind of these deeper wounds, these deeper, traumas? Because I think sometimes I grew up in a fairly dysfunctional home too, and like sometimes you normalize dysfunction because you just think
Mhm.
that's just how it is, right? That's how everybody lives, or
Yeah.
that's how all families are. Then you see health and you go like, oh wait, this is this is something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, what were kind of like the first steps for you, like kind of
Hmm.
becoming aware, getting help?
Yeah. Yeah, I started realizing just how dysfunctional things were when I was pretty young because I was bouncing back and forth between families. and they were criticizing and, attacking each other so much. And then when I started living on my own, which I was a very young teenager at this point, staying with friends and things, I started saying, wow, these parents don't beat their kids, or
Mm.
they're not always screaming at their kids, and lots of other things are not happening. I said, whoa, maybe things can be different. So I had this idea that things could be different pretty early on. But I had also internalized other beliefs as well, like I don't want to be a burden to anybody else because I'm always a burden. I'm always not wanted. I'm always staying at a place where I'm not welcome. And so this also created a belief that I have to be strong, independent, and do everything on my own. So when I first got started, the idea of seeing a therapist, the idea of getting a coach or help or support in any way wasn't even on the table. I wasn't even considering that. I didn't have money for it. I didn't have any resources, and I didn't think I was worthy of it. So I was doing it all on my own. The first thing that it started looking like was I was realizing all of these patterns in my life, all the relationships that I had, and how they were based on these patterns of abuse. Because I was watching my mom at this point. I'd come back around to her, first time really interacting with her in years, and I was just watching her relationship with her husband. I was like, wow, this is so abusive. And I was watching her relationship with her other kids. I was like, wow, this is just so abusive. And I realized, wow, the only relationships that she knows is abuse.
Mm.
Connection, attachment, compassion looks like abuse to her.
Mm.
And so I was mistaking those same things, compassion, connection, compassion, connection, attachment for abuse, pain. And so I just started clearing out my entire life. It was, that simple at first. Relationships, every one of them, as soon as I started setting boundaries and started saying, no, I can't be treated this way. I mean, that's the first step in a healing journey is when you start to realize the truth of your situation and you start to make changes is there's always inevitable pain right away because the relationships that we have are based on those previous patterns of lack of boundaries or people stepping on your boundaries or benefiting on your lack of boundaries, so on. And so when you start to have those, people don't like them. And so, yeah, I lost a lot of relationships. I got rid of a lot of relationships, friends, romantic relationships, the places I was hanging out, the communities I was engaging with, so on. Just got rid of all of it and started over and started doing things like going to school, going to college and stuff like that. And trying to do different things. So that was the first step. But then, of course, when you create something new outside of that old pattern, well, the input is still all of that abuse and all those same patterns. So I would create a new pattern that was slightly different, but was the same shade and taste of everything before. So it took a long time of just constantly clearing things out and regrowing things, but then growing the same plants that I didn't want to begin with. So it was a lot of trial and error.
Mm. So, when was kind of the time, like, was this after college or where you kind of said, I'd like to take kind of my own story, my own pain, my own experiences and say, I would love to help people, get
Hmm.
unstuck or deal with their own trauma or, um, you know, really do what you're doing. I mean, now, was there like a encouragement from someone to like, hey, you should think about helping people, or were you already helping people and didn't really even know you were having success in this way, maybe before that light bulb came on? But yeah, tell us a little about that journey of kind of how you got to where you are today.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I've always kind of fallen into that role. Like, I mean, my parents were teenagers, so I was the oldest of my generation. So when the younger kids or cousins came around, I was, 6, 7, 8, 10 years older than they were. So they always looked up to me because I was out in front of them. And same thing with my friends too. Like I started school super early, so I was like 2 years younger than everybody, but I was on my own way before everybody else. So every friend that I had was always kind of coming to me looking for support of like, hey, I'm moving out, or hey, I'm doing this thing, I'm getting this job, so on and so forth. How do I pay this bill? How do I? So people were always kind of coming to me looking for support. And when I started going to school, the goal was I was studying, addiction psychology, clinical psychology, really figuring out how do we transform this pain? How can we heal it? And the goal, of course, was to heal myself, but I really wanted to help other people. And yeah, it was probably about 4 years, 5 years after university where I had really gotten into my own practice. I had, at this point, I was working with teachers and stuff like that, like going and seeking support.
Mhm.
And I had really started to build my own practice and I was actually getting some transformation. And that's when people in this like therapeutic capacity started to come in to see me. It was when things started clicking. It was like something energetically or in the universe or whatever, a threshold had been crossed. And then as soon as I got there, that's when people started coming to see me as well.
Yeah, so it sounds like you had kind of this already built in, even with trauma. It's probably good for people to hear too, is like even in a difficult situation, it was like you're still kind of helping people. You're still kind of like, hey, I got family or cousins. I'm pointing them in the right direction. It may be small things. It may be, how to pay your bills or there's something funny about my story is very similar. Is like you move out of the house fairly young, usually because of dysfunction, and so you have to learn things really fast and grow up
Yeah.
really fast. I mean, I know it's cliche, but it's true. You become an adult probably faster than you want to.
Yeah.
But you have that advantage of like, oh, I can show people some things because I've been there and I've had to figure out how to live on my own. I've had to figure out how to, pay bills or do whatever. Um, but I think that's important because I think people sometimes look at their lives and go, I'm just damaged goods. There's nothing I have to offer. But you could already
Mhm.
see early on that, there was something there that I could offer people. I mean, obviously you weren't thinking probably in this scope, um, but it was there. The seeds were there, right? So talk us through like kind of the work you're doing now, like how did you kind of stumble upon, I'll use the word stumble, into kind of the very specific work you're doing, like when you're kind of looking at the different therapies, you were looking at addiction and psychology and all that, but obviously you've kind of started your own thing. Like what was kind of the turning point for that? Like, hey, this is going to be unique and here's why. Like what was
Mhm.
happening in your life that you said this is the kind of call it mentoring, call it therapy services you want to offer people because you feel like this is really helpful, really transformational. Talk us through that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when I was in university and I was studying addiction psychology, I just wasn't getting the answers I wanted. Um, Everything was just a reduction in this materialist, reductionist view. Everything was mechanical. And it didn't really have any answers for what an addiction is. For instance, oh, it's a complex mechanism of genetics and environment and choice. And we can look at it from a legal perspective of you're making a choice and then you need to be punished, or you can look at it from the disease model of there's something wrong with your brain and therefore you're impaired. It just wasn't working for me. It was so outside of my lived experience. So I started looking for my own teachers and I was very interested in certain fields already. And the people that I was into were also talking about like psychedelic therapy. Not necessarily the psychedelic therapy at this point, but it was more of how psychedelics have been used throughout human history. Before I moved away from Michigan, I was talking to my grandma on my dad's side, and we had never really interacted. Language barriers, cultural barriers, again, the dynamics with me not really being liked or wanted in my family. So we're having a few conversations, and she looks at me and she says, Mijo, you're gonna be a healer. And I'm like, all right, here we go. I mean, here comes the. She's always spouting some crazy stuff like that's really out there. But she saw that I kind of like didn't really listen to what she said. She says, "No, mijo," and she like kind of jostles me, and she says, "You're gonna be a healer." And so I used this as an opportunity. I would always ask her, like, what is our lineage? What is our ethnical lineage? Where do we come from? And she'd always say, you're American, I'm American, and you're American. I'm like, Grandma, look at you. You're not American. You don't speak English. Where are you from? I'm from Texas. I finally got her to open up a little bit, and she was telling me that we come from a lineage of healers down from, South Mexico, and they had been using various plants as medicine throughout the generations, and she had fled for various reasons of ethnical persecution, so on. So she had told me that we came from this, and so it kind of was serendipitous. There was a connection here. And I was already getting interested. I was always feeling this big call to it, and so I really started looking into it. And the more and more I started getting into this, the more things were just clicking. There was like this resonance of, wow, this is so new to me, but also so familiar. And one thing just opened up to the next after that. It was like this path just kept unfolding in front of me. And I found some incredible teachers who were in this using this using, psychedelic experiences for therapy. And the more and more that I got into that, I was like, whoa, we can actually address addictions. We can find answers for what this is. Where does this come from? And what can we do with it? And then we can use this experience as a tool to actually go in and change the relationship with this addiction with astonishing results very quickly. So I got really into it and just started studying it like crazy, and then finding teachers who were actively working with it and doing everything I could to, one, consume all the information that I could, but then go and study and train with them. I was studying things like Gestalt therapy, and Jungian psychology, and they had fantastic foundations for exactly what we were doing here. But then when I opened up to like internal family systems therapy and compassionate inquiry, all of it just kind of came together and connected. And I started taking pieces of each one of those and applying it to, myself. And then this kind of just distilled down into an approach that I was able to really use, to one, connect with people and see what they're going through, but then two, to show them different ways to engage with that pain that they were in, mainly because I came from it. Like, just like you were saying a minute ago, I can see a lot of similarities with what we go through. The vast majority of people that come with me, they're going through some sort of pain, some sort of trauma, intergenerational trauma. And yeah, I come from it too. So it gave me a wonderful opportunity to work with it and to see theirs and to help them connect with it as well.
But yeah, I'm really fascinated and curious about psychedelics. Some of the conversations around it, like one I just heard recently about using it with military, people that have
Mm, yeah,
experienced, serious PTSD, and,
yeah.
they're not getting results with normal counseling or therapy, and using different kind of psychedelics. So I know when
Hmm.
people hear that, they probably hear hippie, they probably hear,
Sure.
classic rock, right?
Hmm.
Acid, whatever. How would you kind of describe, in your world, the way they're used, what they are, what they aren't? Give us a little crash course in that.
Hmm. Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. The studies, the research with veterans, law enforcement, first responders, this is huge because huge suicide rates,
Hmm.
massive depression rates in these demographics. And yeah, no alternatives, no solution whatsoever. In fact, most of them just end up on the streets when they come back. So, to be a part of something that's actually making some changes here and providing some relief is really important to me. So yeah, yeah, psychedelic experiences. This is something that's been handed down throughout the generations. You look through human history, every single culture, every single one of them has had some area of their society that was dedicated to this experience. And it was held in a very sacred, ceremonial type of fashion with the highest of respects. And it wasn't until, not too long ago in history, I mean, in the blink in human history, right? We're looking at thousands of years,
Right.
where these, I mean, even when they had, these ceremonial, ritualistic, sacred, practices, there was always some sort of force that was trying to get rid of this, of course. So all throughout the history, this has been a very important human experience, and it's one where you connect very deeply with yourself. The word psychedelic itself, psyche, psychology,
Mhm.
right? The immaterial aspects of who we are, your mind, your thinking, your emotions, your human spirit. That's what we're talking about. That's what the psyche is, the soul, right? And then you have delic, emerging, manifesting, arising. So you have the human spirit emerging, manifesting. A psychedelic experience is where you connect very deeply with yourself and the human spirit that's inside of us, all this wisdom, all this knowledge, millions of years of evolution, billions of years of evolution that's inside of us, all that wisdom becomes accessible. And so we can see very clearly barriers, um, blockages, patterns that are harming us, that are stifling our ability to thrive and to grow and to live meaningful lives in tune with what it means to be a human being. So this expanding of our awareness of seeing what's blocking us, what's harming us, what is the source of our suffering, it's so foundational in terms of then making choices. Okay, so if I can see what my suffering is, and I can see it very clearly, and I can really engage with it, and I cannot see it just from my perspective, but I can see it from other perspectives as well. which is very characteristic of this experience. I can see that I'm more than the damaged goods. I'm more than just broken. Sure, all these things happened to me and they affected me in certain ways, but I'm more than that. Those are just my experiences. There's a whole different dimension of who I am, and I can get to that if I can start to soothe and nurture this pain that I'm in. So this really enables people, it empowers people to start making choices and to take responsibility. And then what this experience is really good at doing, in addition to, of course, expanding our awareness, showing us these dynamics and showing us how we're more than that, is it's so good at showing us something outside of that. So for somebody, if we use the example of a war veteran or a first responder who's carrying around all of this burden and all of this pain, and their mind is just dwelling, ruminating, circles, circles, circles. They're seeing it everywhere they go. They're reliving it constantly. Intrusive memories coming up, major emotional responses, in fight or flight constantly. This is all that we're really experiencing, which is why suicide becomes the main answer here is, well, I gotta get something different. But here we can experience, actually feel and experience what it's like to go outside of that. We can remember and recover what life would have been like before all that pain and suffering happened. And this experiencing of it is so crucial because, I mean, we can talk about it all day,
Mhm.
right? You can know it conceptually, but to really feel it, to really live it and experience it, it gives people a massive win very quickly. And it shows them the path they can do to get back to that. And then you just come back to life and you got to do
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, I mean that I think that's what I just heard someone recently talking about some of their experiences and how they were just saying it's not like, after I go through a session that I'm like a different person, like my personality is different. It's like I still have to live, I still have to be a husband, I still have to be a dad. I still, like,
Hmm.
but I'm making different choices because I'm more aware of things. I'm
Precisely.
more in tune with things.
Yeah.
So instead of choosing, anger, I'm choosing, patience or love or conversation or, or whatever challenge you may have or um now how like in your work, so let's just like make a hypothetical. I mean, you don't have to make a hypothetical. You can talk about someone who's really done this, but um is like what somebody comes to you, it's obviously not an ongoing thing. Like how do you kind of determine like how often should people do this? Like
Mm.
where do you begin? Like, where's kind of the foundational, and then you kind of determine, okay, here's the next step. Is it different for everybody, or is there kind of like common strategies for people that are dealing with different traumas or different pain? Or yeah, talk us through just kind of like a couple examples what that would look like.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's different for everybody. And the research will say, I mean, the research varies. You can get really good results from doing numerous sessions in a short amount of time. I'll tell you how I do it.
Hmm.
This is the baseline that when I'm working with people, which is when I start working with people, we are just doing therapy. And the therapy that I'm doing is gauged at this having this experience. So, I mean, we can get to those exact same places. We can have a psychedelic experience through means of paying very close attention, through being very present, through self-reflection, through inquiry, through meditation, where you intensely focus on something that you're feeling. Numerous ways you can get to this exact same experience. We start doing that right away. We use reflection, inquiry, and focus as the way that we get there. And the whole goal here is so the psychedelic experience, two main characteristics. One, an expansion of awareness. Two, they call it neuroplasticity, new neurological connections firing and building really quickly. So neurogenesis, you're building new connections throughout your body. That's the new path that's laying out. So we got those two things. So if things are going to come to our awareness during this psychedelic experience, mainly the things that are causing us pain or suffering, we start taking that inventory now. So that way there's no surprises later on. And rather than pain coming up and being like, oh goodness, what is this right here? I don't know what this is. It's overwhelming. It's scary. I want to avoid it. I want it gone. We start to build a relationship with it. We get to know it right away. And so we spend, 3, 4 weeks minimum doing, hour and a half, 2 hour sessions of really starting to, one, take the inventory of all the pain that's inside. And then two, starting to build a relationship with it, getting very curious about it. Where does this come from? How often do I feel this? Where did it develop? What needs did I have that went unmet when this pain originally developed? What's my relationship with it? What do I do? Do I push it away? Do I judge it? Do I evaluate it? Do I exile it? Do I punish it? What do I do? Do I welcome it? Do I embrace it? Do I relate with it? Do I comfort and soothe it? What do I do? What do I want to do? What is this pain? What is this pain here for? So we start to build a practice where this pain becomes very familiar. And rather than waiting for it to come up, when for us to get activated and triggered, we're going to spend a lot of our attention, our capacity to go and look for it ourselves, to keep going to that pain and say, hey, you're not alone anymore. You don't have to carry all this alone. I'm here with you. And I'm going to listen to what you're going through. I'm going to listen to what you need. And I'm going to try my best to be there for you. Of course you're in pain. Of course you're scared. Of course you're angry. Of course you're ashamed. These things happened. And we can work through it. And I'm going to go through it with you. So that's the relationship we try to build with ourselves. And it's a practice. We continuously go into this. Once we get this thing really established and built, then if you have a psychedelic experience, you can use the psychedelic experience as a tool to deepen that practice. So if I've realized there's all this pain that I carry, there's a part of me that's in pain and I'm angry because of it, or I'm scared, and then I'm judging myself because anger is bad. And I know, angry boys don't get loved. I've learned that my whole life. Or, you can't be scared. You got to be strong and independent, whatever. So I'm always judging myself. Well, maybe I don't know how to be kind to myself. Maybe I don't know how to comfort this. But during a psychedelic experience, like I said, you might really experience that and, get it fully laid out in front of you. And then after this, we spend again a couple weeks, whatever's necessary with people, doing the hour and a half or 2 hour sessions, whatever's needed, really going in and building that practice even further. So it's usually around 6 to 8 weeks of constantly, weekly building this practice and really going in and experiencing these things. Depending on what people are going through, most of the times that's enough. We get the practice started, and I mean, that's enough to really get this rolling. And then they got to go do it. You got to go back into life. You got to go back into your relationships where you're used to suppressing yourself, suppressing your emotions, or pleasing people to make other people happy to maintain your relationships. And you've got to say, wow, you got to start to express this. Wow, I always suppress myself. Wow, I always make myself small and agreeable because I'm scared you're going to abandon me if I have, boundaries or emotions or whatever. You start letting people see it. You start communicating it, expressing it. You start trying to meet those needs. And you do it as best you can. And then when you run into, the roadblocks, as we will, then you come back and you do it again, or you get a refresher course. So for the most part, people do it like once a year, sometimes twice a year, at most 3 or 4 times a year, once every 3 months.
Mhm.
That's in really acute cases.
Mhm.
For the most part, I find that the once a year thing is more than enough.
Okay. Yeah. So what I hear you saying too is like, it's not forgetting what happened. It's not
Mhm.
pretending, it's just going to magically go away. It's actually kind of how I hear you saying is like almost learning how to dance with our pain.
Mhm.
Like it's going to come up. It did happen, it's not, we're not just waving a magic wand over it and it'll just poof be gone. But it's, yeah, how do I kind of deal with it? When, if I feel overwhelmed or I feel anxious or I feel, sad or, we're saying, yes, it is there, but like now we have some tools to kind of deal with it, work with it, walk with it, right? I like that because I think sometimes people think like even in therapy or coaching or mentoring, it's like all the pain's just going to go away. Like that's the goal. It's just going to vanish and then we don't have to deal with it. But it's like, no, how do we, in a healthy way, obviously, learn how to work, kind of work with it. I like that. Uh,
Precisely.
so, what was kind of like for you, if you don't mind me getting personal, but like for
Mhm.
you and your own kind of personal breakthroughs, like what did that look like for you when you were kind of dealing with your own past and childhood and um how have you been kind of learning how to kind of dance with your own kind of pain? Because obviously it still pops up and even how you started, I'm paying attention, not being judgmental of myself or like we're so aware of how we can I got to sound like an expert or I got to sound like I know what I'm talking about and all these kind of
Right. Get to be
narratives.
important.
Yes, I got to, puff myself up and promote
Mhm.
myself, right? Rather than just being humble and curious. And, it's a hard thing, right? But yeah, talk us through a little bit of your own kind of experience.
Mhm. Well, yeah, I had so much pain that I didn't know anything outside of it. And it was a psychedelic experience where for the very first time I experienced something outside of that pain. And it was terrifying, because when you're forged in the darkness, when you first come across the light, it's a threat. It's blinding. You can't say, "Oh, God, I don't like that."
Mm.
Right? And so going back into that and moving into the light out of the darkness was very, very challenging, very, very difficult. Um, yeah, we can be so harsh to ourselves. I find this underneath this harshness is pretty much always a belief that I see in every single person I've ever worked with, and it's absolutely inside myself. And it's this belief of unworthiness. I'm not good enough. I'm damaged. Um, I'm broken. I'm unworthy of love. I'm unworthy of compassion. I'm unworthy of connection. And this itself is an adaptation. So if you go to my childhood, when all these bad things are happening to me, how do I make sense of that? What is the worldview that I develop in relationship to all this childhood abuse? Well, I could say first, my parents, my caregivers, my family, whoever, just not up to the job. They're not qualified. They're not capable. They are dangerous people. In other words, I'm not safe. And there's not a lot of hope in that situation. And there's not a lot of flexibility for me to enact some sort of choice or anything outside of this. So that's where the second view comes in, which is, well, my caregivers are older. They have connections. Um, they've survived. They're actually doing kind of well in life. They have things, and they're living. So maybe they do know what's going on. It's just I'm not worthy of getting the love or the connection that I deserve or that I need here. So if I could be good enough, then I'll get it. And so then we go on this quest to be good enough. And we go and get lots of degrees and we become lots really important to people because when I do these things for these people, then I'm valued, then I'm needed, then I'm wanted, then I'm important, then I'm respected. And this is so common. Like when I was preparing for medical school, for instance, all of this was just to be important, just to be valued, just to be accepted, just to be respected. And the main thing was I didn't respect myself. I didn't value myself. I didn't love or accept myself. I was so darn harsh and critical to myself because that's all I'd ever known. That's all that I was ever treated. Everybody was harsh and critical to me, and that's what love and compassion looked like. So, when I first stepped outside of this, it was like, oh, yes, there's an acceptance of I'm in pain, and that's okay. And that's a part of life. I can do things with that. What I had been doing before was just trying to suppress my pain, to suppress my fear, suppress my anger. And when we suppress one emotion, it's not like a buffet where you say, yeah, I'll take the joy. I'll have the warmth and the happiness in life, and you can go ahead and keep the pain and keep the anger. Oh, I definitely won't want that fear or shame. Now,
Mm.
once you suppress one emotion, you suppress all of them.
Mm.
So, I was becoming numb. I just wasn't feeling anything. And then I was looking for these highs of being really important to people and being valued and being accepted. And so I was working with one of my teachers. He was pointing that out, and I wasn't ready to. It was a teaching moment. He was teaching it to me, but I was not learning it. It took me quite a while to really see, like, oh, yeah, I'm very harsh to myself.
Mm.
I'm very critical to myself, always evaluating. And in fact, I was working with a coach just last week, and yeah, I mean, throughout that, I find new ways that I'm evaluating myself, and it's just never good enough. So yeah, it's not that we want to take the pain away. It's not that we want to get rid of it because we take away a big part of the experience of life.
Mm.
What we really want to do is we want to learn how to navigate it. We want to build the skills and tools to navigate when we're going through this pain and to comfort and soothe it. And yeah, that's the big thing for me right there is, paying very close attention to my experience because yeah, when we go through pain and you can't make it stop or you can't go away, the defense mechanism kicks in and you go away mentally.
Mm.
Right. And so we're just always checked out. We're always doing the tasks. We're always doing the things, whatever it takes to disconnect from ourselves.
Yes.
So coming back and paying very close attention to what I'm experiencing was crucial in order if I'm going to make any kind of choice and take responsibility for what I'm feeling and, try and comfort and soothe it. First thing is I got to pay very close attention to it and be with it. So those were the really important things right there, really noticing, when I'm doing something because I'm in pain and it's a way of getting away from it, whether it's, being important, getting the job, getting the status, getting the title, getting the wealth, getting the respect, whatever it is, or doing the thing to distract, all of those things are just an escape from the pain and really learning to come back to it and to engage and relate with it and soothe it in lots of ways. And then if I can see that harsh, critical voice that's always there saying, you're lazy, you're good for nothing, bum, you're never going to be able to do the things. Hi, Dad. How'd you get here so fast? Thanks for trying to help me, by the way. I really appreciate that. I know you want me to be good enough, but you know what? I can be good enough without all of that. So
Mhm.
really trying to learn that, very important.
Mhm. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You do some of this work with your wife or your partner.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
so I was curious. I'm glad you said yes because then I have another question. Um, is what does it look like for you together? Like I'm curious. Like you've both obviously done some work individually. And you're working with clients and helping people. How does that kind of like manifest just together as a couple, like doing this kind of work? Is that even a fair question? Maybe
sure.
but yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, you're obviously like you have your story, she has her story, you're
Oh,
coming
yeah.
together as one, like,
Hmm.
both have, challenges, but also a lot of victories and other things, and you're trying to help people. So how does that kind of work as a family unit, if you will?
Yeah. Yeah, this relationship that I'm in, we've been in a relationship for some time now.
Mhm.
Um, I think this was the first time where I really created a relationship with somebody very intentionally. And it wasn't the, oh, you like me, I like you too.
Mhm.
I think that what ends up happening a lot of the times is we get in relationship with the people, like our biggest triggers, because what we're doing is we're looking for the love, the care, the connection that we didn't get when we were younger.
Mhm.
And so we keep finding people who are unable to give it to us in the exact same ways that we were unable to receive it when we were younger. Um, this was the first time that I stepped outside of that, and she was able to do the exact same thing, thankfully. So, a lot of the times I think that we work as mirrors to each other. So when I get up on some BS, which happens,
Mhm.
I'm an asshole. I'm not fully an asshole. There's a part of me that's definitely an asshole though, because of what I come from.
Mhm.
And I mean, she's got that inside her too. And we can be, really harsh and critical to ourselves, but we can also do that to each other. And yeah, when we're both on this path of trying to constantly, cultivate agency, choice, and take responsibility, um, one, it's very easy to see when the other person's doing it, but it's a little difficult to see it when you're doing it sometimes, no matter how far into it you are. But luckily, we have enough communication and trust in the relationship where we can reflect those things back to each other. And, just the other day, I'm snapping on her because of something food related because I grew up with a lot of food issues when I was younger and she's playing into it too because she's got these same patterns and we're able to see, oh, okay, yeah, I'm a little activated over this same thing and she says, oh yeah, a little activated over this exact same thing and we're playing off of it. And then we can really make choices to step outside of that. So, yeah, this relationship that we have and doing this work together is just, it's really fueling each other and nurturing each other and really encouraging us to continue to be our best version of ourselves and also being really kind and compassionate to ourselves when we slip up and when we're being, harsh and critical, not just to
Mhm.
ourselves, but to each other.
Yeah. So I noticed like I mean, you've stumbled upon this, different kind of therapy because I heard you talk about like just the kind of limitations of, normal talk therapy, if you want to call it that.
Hmm.
Then I also noticed like your wife was I believe, a nurse and working in hospitals and things, and
Yeah.
just like the conventional kind of, medicine and ways of going about things and mental
Hmm.
health and all that. It's interesting. My wife's actually in the nursing world. But uh, I was just curious, like, how did you guys begin to kind of build your practice? Like, what were some of the things you were trying to like say, hey, we've seen this. This doesn't seem to be
Hmm.
that effective, but we really like this. And how do we kind of build our own thing? So, like, what does that
Yeah.
kind of look like for your kind of your whole world and orbit, the practice that you're kind of building together.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we actually met working on a hospital unit together.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, yeah. And we worked there for a little under a year together. She stayed there much longer than I did. I couldn't keep doing it.
Mhm.
And then we were friends for, a couple years, and then we started building a relationship. And yeah, when we started dating, I was stepping away from all of the healthcare hospital industry, and actually moved into consulting, trying to make some meaningful changes, applying these same concepts to organizations, and it just wasn't working. The system. I'd like to say that it's broken, but honestly, I think that it was built in this way. And yeah, she still works as a nurse, and we just see so many areas where I mean, what does modern healthcare really offer these days?
Mhm.
Medications are the first line of treatment and the last line of treatment.
Mhm.
You go into your doctor appointment, you got 15 minutes, 30 minutes if you got a really, really good doctor that's in private practice or whatever, and they can,
Mhm.
choose to work with people over making profits, which is very difficult to do. You got 15 minutes and they're going to come in. They got all these state and government mandated questions and questionnaires and all these things that they got to go through. And they got, a minute or two to really talk about why you're here. And they can't get into your trauma. They can't talk to you about what happened to you when you were a kid and what do you do with your pain and what's your relationship with yourself and how do you express your emotions? How do you soothe your emotions? So on and so forth. What they can really do is say, I got this medication for you,
Mhm.
or we got this surgery for you, or I can refer you to this person over here who can give you something over there. So, yeah, we just really didn't like a lot of the things that we were seeing there, and we really wanted to create something new outside of that. So yeah, almost everything that we do is influenced by that. Like when we do hour-and-a-half appointments, even just going and seeing a therapist and they do the 50, 55-minute hour appointments, it's like every time that we were in a therapy session, this is me speaking personally, right when I'm starting to get to the good thing, it's time to wrap up.
Mhm.
And so having the hour and a half just makes all the difference because there's no rush. And I always found that I was looking at the clock, like, do I have enough time to really get into this? Do I have enough time? Can I get to it quick enough? Can we get to the understanding quick enough so we can start to figure out what to do with this? Just little things like that. And then, we started off working in a clinic, like a health clinic that was, therapy, acupuncture, all that kind of stuff. And just the feeling of being in a clinic just wasn't conducive to what we were doing. So we built this space here. And, we're trying to move further and further just to have a real, yeah, I guess the way I could describe it is you go into a chemotherapy infusion room and it's cold. It's sterile. You got the smell of the chemicals. You got the beeping of all the IV rooms. Everybody's wearing the gowns and the masks and the gloves. And on the walls, you'll have like TVs or pictures of naturescapes. And it's like, oh yeah, healing doesn't happen in this environment.
Mhm.
Healing happens in the natural world when you're connected to the environment, when you're connected to others, and when you can connect to yourself. And that's really what we've been trying to create is a way to reconnect with ourselves and with the world around us and with others, and to heal outside of that isolation. So yeah, everything that we're doing is inspired and influenced by our own experiences with the healthcare system.
Mhm. Yeah, it sounds like you're trying to take it like a step back, like foundational, like soul, spirit, who you are, what not just it seems like hospital healthcare, it's the damage has already been done. Here's just a pill. Here's, just I only have so much time. But you're saying like let's get to the roots. Let's get to
Yeah,
the underneath stuff, right? That you don't, like you said, it's like it's sad because it's money, right? It's like we have to get them out because we got to get the next patient and
yeah,
I only got 15 minutes. It's like what can you do in 15 minutes or 30 minutes? I mean,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's funny. I just got we had moved back to uh California and was just looking for a doctor just to get a physical or whatever, like get some blood work, just normal stuff. And it was like it was kind of a joke. Like, I mean, never met me before, never doesn't have anything, doesn't know anything, but it's like 15 minutes. It's like, okay, am I healthy? Am I not? It's just like, just go
Yeah.
get blood and, anything sore? Well, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I really appreciate just both of you, paying attention. Really, that's what this. podcast is about. It's paying attention to the things around us, paying attention to ourselves,
Yeah.
seeing things that maybe other people aren't seeing, and saying, "Hey, is there a way to find a solution to this? Like this isn't good, and
Right.
this isn't helping people in the long term."
Yeah.
So I appreciate the work you're doing. So Julian, what just as we kind of get to the end of our conversation, what are you dreaming about? What do you have going on? What would you like people to know about you, your practice, what you're
Hmm.
building, anything coming up? How people can find you? That'd be also be another part B to that question.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Real quick though, I just want to add one last thing to what we are saying
Yeah.
is I'm not totally against medications either.
Oh, sure.
I think that there's absolutely a time and a place where they could be used, especially if things are really unstable. Like if we're talking, war veterans, for instance,
Oh,
that
sure.
are, dealing with a high, overwhelming intensity of emotions. Medications can be really useful in those situations. And then we have to go into the pain and we got to learn how to work with it.
Mhm.
So we can stabilize, but we absolutely have to go in and build the foundation to work with these things. And that's what I think is missing.
Yeah. 100%.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm just right now, we're really building out our practice in terms of our reach with people. I'm trying to reach more people who are looking for this type of work and, yeah, might not know where to go or
Mhm.
might be doing it all alone like I was. So yeah, we're having lots of conversations like
Mhm.
these and putting out, virtual workshops where people can come and participate and have these conversations with us and work with us like that.
Mhm.
And of course, work with us in person too if you'd like. So yeah, those are all the big things. You can always reach us on our website, psychedelic-integration.net,
Mhm.
or Instagram's fantastic. And yeah, if anybody ever wants to participate or come and have a conversation or things like that, of course you can reach us on the website. But we're starting to put out, like I said, lots of virtual groups and things like that where you can come in, log in, listen to things that we're talking about or that things that people are going through. Or if you want to log in and chat and say, hey, yeah, this is what I'm going through and I'm trying to figure out some things I can do with it. More than happy to have you log on and ask some questions. And we got lots of time. And if you want to work with us personally or individually, that's always an option too.
Well, I'm going to make a big assumption just for those listening is, I don't think you have to probably be a war veteran or have to, have gone through like, first responder, terrible, terrible
Precisely.
things, right? Obviously, I think, we all have varying levels of need and trauma, and we all walk with and dance with all kinds of stuff. So, is that fair to
Absolutely.
say? I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, as far as I've seen, everybody's going through some amount of trauma.
yeah,
I look at the world that we're in right now. It's so fragmented and disconnected, and there's so many patterns of intergenerational trauma that's just showing up everywhere around us. I've never met somebody, never, I'm not saying that they don't exist, but I've never met somebody who's outside of that.
right.
And, it's not just about working through the depths of pain and despair and suffering. That's really important, and it shows up for just about everybody. But there's also people who are like, I really want to enjoy life more.
Mhm.
I really want to have deeper, richer connections with myself and with my partner, with my family. I want to be better parents. I want better creative expression. I want to get deeper with my expression, whatever it is, right? So yeah, the demographics that are very commonly talked about right now are high trauma and depression, anxiety, all of these things. But also, there's so many applications for this. Like I said, it's been in human history since as far back as we can trace, and
Yeah.
we can work through pain, but we can also work through a lot of other things too.
Yeah, it feels like we're kind of in this moment where people kind of want to just re-engage with life. Like they just want to
Yeah,
find joy in like the little things of life, like being a
yeah,
dad, being a wife, being a friend, like going to work and not just being like, is this all there is? Death and
hmm
taxes, like,
right,
right? Just
precisely.
like re-engaging with like beauty and art and creativity and I feel like we're all just kind of looking at our phones and not aware of all the beauty that's around us and even, inside us or things that we maybe left behind because someone told us like, hey, you can't be a, you know, jazz musician because that's a waste of time, but they just want to pick up the guitar again and start playing, or they want to,
Yeah,
have deeper, meaningful connections with their partner or, and I think that's something that's overlooked in our culture. We just kind of look at everybody. Oh, they're doing great. They have a nice car. They're wearing nice clothes. Like everything looks like it's fine. But then deep down, they're just like, they have these longings for, there's got to be more. There's got to be,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, absolutely.
other
You
things
you
to
can you
interact
can
with.
you can reach the pinnacles of success in this society. You can have the money, you can have the jobs, you can have the cars, the houses, and still be miserable.
Yeah,
And that's an
100%.
indication that something's not quite right in our society. Um, so yeah, a lot of people, just like you said, are really looking for something else, and this is
Mhm.
a great way to find it.
Awesome. Well, Julian, this has been so fun, and I'm so glad we got to meet each other and interact. And I'm looking forward to sharing this episode with the world. And I will put all your information in the show notes so people can connect with you. And I hope you continue to do God's work, and you're doing a great work. So thanks for sharing your wisdom, your experiences, and your work. And we really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And thank you for doing this too and putting it out there and having this platform. I really appreciate you as well. Thanks.
My pleasure. Well, there you have it, my friends. Julian Bermudez, and go check out his website. I'll put that all in the show notes. And so thanks for coming in, listening in. I'm so thankful for Julian. Thank you for just sharing his story. And I just love the people that I get to interact with. Such unique, diverse group of people doing amazing work in the world and helping us pay attention to our own pain, our own struggle, our lives. And it's an important work because what we need is to continually be healed from the inside out, transformed from the inside out. So why? So that we can go and live good lives in the world, so that we can be present to God, to others, to our communities, to our neighbors. But it all begins with ourselves. And I was thinking about just the place in which we find ourselves in our country, at least here in America. And there's just a lot of untapped pain. There's a lot of people struggling, and it's being projected on other people because they haven't dealt with their own stuff. And so when that happens, is we become cruel, we become abusive, we become impatient, we stop loving our neighbors and those around us. And so we all need to do this work. It's an unending work. And paying attention is part of that work. It's a proper and endless work. We need to pay attention to our own souls and to those around us and what's going on around us. So thanks for joining us today. Go check out the newsletter, the Art of the Paying Attention newsletter. I send out little helpful tips and tricks and things for your life, your leadership, your creativity. Join the newsletter. It keeps you updated on all the stuff going on too. Check out the coaching programs as well. I'll put that in the show notes, and leave a rating and review. If you like the show or you didn't, just leave a rating and review anyway. It helps us get the show out in the world wherever you are listening to this podcast or watching on YouTube. Go check out the YouTube channel. Well, that's all I got today. Ryan J. Pelton signing off. Grace and peace, my friends.